Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. It's a beautiful Friday morning. Today is October 24th, 2025. Most weekdays, barring travel or conflicts, we get together. So Mondays through Fridays, normally at this time, talk about tips, strategies, success stories, support each of you. I know I have a busy shared screen here, but we're going to navigate through it so it makes sense. So let's start over here on the left-hand side with our note inset. So we are 509 South Pacific. This is our daily Zoom. Our website is 509pacific.org. If you're interested in working with us and becoming a reseller, you can do that on our website. If alternatively you're just simply looking for funding to start or grow a business, you can go to entrepreneurstarterpack.com. Real simple landing page. Ask for four pieces of information: first name, last name, phone number, email. Super simple. Any of you who are a reseller, you should have a landing page that looks just like this. If you don't, be sure to let us know. As far as letting us know, our text support line is 903 347 8042. Again, it is a text support line. It's not answered live. If you need our live answered phone, that phone number is on our website. Our YouTube channel, which we record and post our trainings to. If you need to schedule, you can schedule. Our nonprofit is a 501c3. We applied for and received a grant. The grant has three mandates, first of which is to improve financial literacy. I frankly think today's topic is a perfect example of that. You can judge that for me in a few minutes. We give away free shelf corps, and those are given away through our reseller partners. And then we work with the grant participants, leveraging the new knowledge and the new shelf corp to get funding. 100,000 is the minimum, not the maximum. So with all that being said, let's dig in. So today we're going to talk about Dun and Bradstreet. So business credit is different than personal credit in many ways. So of course, business credit is for the business, for the EIN. Personal credit is under the social security number of the individual. We're not talking about personal credit, we're talking about business credit. Second, that's kind of obvious. There are different credit bureaus, different players on the business side than on the personal side. And I think we'd all agree the 800-pound gorilla, the biggest, most relevant player, but not the only one on the business side, is called Dun and Bradstreet, commonly referred to as D&B. And we're going to navigate a little bit on their website here in a minute. So, why does this matter? Because we can talk about the what all day long, but if it's not relevant, if there's no meaningful why, then why should we spend time on it? Well, what we can anticipate is as you and I are helping clients create a fundable business, that when we apply for financing or any type of extension of credit, we can reasonably anticipate that the underwriting from the other side, from the bank, from the lender, from the credit issuer, is likely going to include pulling a D&B report, a Dun and Bradstreet report on the business. And so if we know that that's likely to be true, then it makes sense that as part of our prep process, that we want to actually prepare the file to be optimized. And when we use that verb optimize, we mean legal and ethical, of course, but we want to do what we can quickly, reasonably to make the profile look strong. So that is what we're going to show you some today, and this is part of what we do. When we talk about creating a fundable business, that means providing the foundation of a fundable business, and that is through the shelf corp. We call that phase one, and that's delivered normally within 7 days. Then we go into phase two, get them their initial tranche of funding, and then start building out the loan package. So this is part of what we do, but we're happy for you to know what we do and how we do it, and it's something that individuals can learn from and even do on their own if they prefer. So our agenda is Dun and Bradstreet practical training. The goal that we want to have is kind of twofold, but interrelated. We want to help each grant participant have a strong credit profile, so that way we can get approved for financing and funding when we apply for it. And additionally, we want to have a paydex score of at least 80. Paydex scores go from 0 to 100. We don't have to have perfect, but if we have 80 or more, we're considered credible. So those are the goals that we have. There are just a couple simple steps, and it's not that complicated. So let's go through the specific steps. And if you have questions, comments, concerns, you can type those in, and then we're going to look kind of behind the scenes at Dun& Bradstreet as we go along. We need to get a DUNS number first. So there might already be a DUNS number that exists for a given business, but we need to make sure of that. If not, we need to get one, and it's free and easy to get one. Certainly, individuals can navigate a lot of this online on the Dun& Bradstreet website. Our experience, though, is don't do it that way. Call them. And so their phone number, and they have some different numbers, of course, but this is one of the most frequently publicized numbers, 800-526-9018. So from that, we can go ahead and apply for a DUNS number. It's a unique identifier. It's not an alternative to an EIN. And in fact, we'll need our EIN from the IRS even before we do this. But it is the unique number that Dun & Bradstreet uses. It's possible that the business has already been issued a DUNS number just because Dun & Bradstreet's monitoring public records and it's public information when new businesses are formed. But it starts with getting a DUNS number and knowing what the DUNS number is. Simple, free. Now, when we try to get a DUNS number, they will probably say, well, it's going to take up to 30 days unless you want to pay to expedite it. And they're happy to charge you a couple $100 to expedite it. However, we don't need to do that. So when we're on the phone with them, we're going to go ahead and go to step 2. Step 2 is to order Credit Insights. Credit Insights is what they have, which is a credit reporting service. And so I can log back in here and we'll show you how that looks. So once we're able to log in, then we get Credit Insights. Now, Credit Insights is not free. Credit Insights, there's 3 levels. There's the free level, the basic, and the plus. The free won't give us what we need, so skip the free. The basic is just fine. We don't need to do the plus. My point is, if we call in and at the same time we're applying for the DUNS number, that we also add Credit Insights, what we've seen 99 out of 100 times is then they'll expedite the DUNS number for free. So instead of waiting up to 30 days, it usually comes very quickly, and we don't have to pay that fee to expedite it. But we would need to subscribe to Credit Insights. We're going to need that Credit Insights enrollment if we're planning on going to funding, because we need to be able to see the data set that the lenders see. And on the free level, it doesn't give us that. It doesn't properly prepare us. So step 1, call in, get the DUNS number. Step 2, while we're on the phone, add Credit Insights. So then that takes us to step 3. Step 3 is we need to populate. We call it optimize. So in other words, just because a business has a DUNS number doesn't mean that all the relevant information about the business is populated. So let's look on the right-hand side here. So we're logged in, and we can go over to the company profile on the right-hand side, click on Manage Company Profile. And this is public information. So when we look at business credit profiles, that's public information. Personal credit, not public. So let's look at this profile manager of this business. So here's their DUNS number. Good there. And then when we look at this information here, we can look to see, is it fully populated? Is it fully optimized? Or are there important things missing that we should add before we start using the business credit to apply for trade lines and or apply for loans? So the business structure is there, so we're good. The business name is correct, so we're good. Trade style, think of that kind of as a DBA. We won't need to fill it. So the fact that it's blank, no concerns. The date that it was formed, uh-oh, company website. We're missing company website. So this would be a red X. Until we fix this by getting this added, we would not want to start using our DUNS profile to apply for credit. So this is an issue that needs to be corrected. The principal's name, the phone number. So we want to make sure we have a business phone number, not a cell phone number, a business phone number that's listed with directory assistance, National 411. We can help with any of these things that's needed. Year the business started, the title of the principal, the state of incorporation, employee count is important, and then age is auto-calculated. So by default, there's going to be a number of pieces of information that's normally not there that we're going to need to add. So for example, the company website won't automatically be there. Still not here in this example, but we would need to add it. The phone number is normally not initially populated. In many cases, the principal's name's not populated. In many cases, the employee count, it'll say undetermined. Five is the right number. We want to have at least 5 employees. And you might say, well, Tom, what if I don't have 5 employees? Isn't that line? Well, you could create an org chart and say, okay, I plan to have 5 employees sometime in the near future. Now, right now, I don't have 5. I just have myself, 1, or someone else, 2. But 5 is the number that shows more credibility. If you feel uncomfortable with putting 5, you can put a different number in. I don't think there's any sense to put a big number that seems outlandish, but below 5 is going to limit the perceived credibility. We need to make sure that the business address is correct as well. So within Dun & Bradstreet, I just demonstrated to you that we can go over to the company profile. We can also go up here on the top to where it says Credit Insights. And then this is where we can generate a report. And so that is going to be the next item down. We need to run the report. Well, why would we want to run the report? Well, if we anticipate that when we apply for financing or funding, that they're going to run our report, wouldn't it make sense for us to run the client's report first to make sure that everything looks as good as possible? Of course. So when we click on the Credit Insight tab here, we can go over here and click Create Report. Go ahead and click All, Generate Report, and then it's going to populate, and then it's going to show us a lot of information. It's a longer report, but on page 9 of that report, in fact, gives us that same information that we were just looking at, which is also summarized right here on company operations. So this is actually what would be page 9 of that report. So again, we can look at it and make sure that it's optimized. Is it? No, because we're missing the website. We don't want to move forward until we have the website showing on the report. Want to make sure that the business phone number is a business phone number, that if it's not answered live, it has a good voicemail, professional, that's listed directory assistance. Make sure that the industry code is correct. All the shelf corps that we form are set up as management consulting. Annual sales, uh-oh, we're missing something here. So this is another example of how we've not yet optimized this file. We're not ready to start applying for financing and funding until what? 2 things are resolved. We need to get the website reporting and then annual sales. And we're going to talk more about annual sales in a minute. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pivot over. I'm going to go ahead and hide this, and then I'm going to bring this up. So Dun& Bradstreet has a couple different ways that one can populate their profile. So it can be done in many cases online, via telephone, or in many cases, they'll send you this form to complete. It comes as a Microsoft Word document, so it's not an e-form, so it would need to be filled out in Microsoft Word and then sent back to Dun& Bradstreet. But let's go through the information on here to see if there's anything that we don't recognize, so that way we don't get stuck when we're filling this out. So, of course, the legal business name needs to match, and all the shelf corps come with a name. If a client doesn't like that name, we can always change it, but the name is the name, and we need to use whatever the name is, and we need to use that consistently. We don't need to worry about this. That, again, is like a DBA, and normally that won't apply, so we can skip that. The business street address, we provide a free address for all shelf corps. All they pay is the mail forwarding, so we need to use the correct address, street, city, state, and zip. The primary phone number, again, we want this to be the business phone number. We recommend using Ruby. I can type that in if you want. You don't have to, but ruby.com is a vendor that you can get a phone number from. They'll provide phone answering, very reliable, very professional, but you don't have to use Ruby. But we want a business phone number that's listed directory assistance. If there's a different mailing address, normally best practice is just use one address consistently so the records don't get discombobulated. So just stick with our normal business address, which we provide. Primary contact email, company website, the date the business started. And so when we send about 7 days after someone enrolls in the grant, we're providing them their initial Shelf Corp document. So that'll show the date that the business started. So we're not making it up. It's a factual date. List owners, and normally just listing the primary owner, and they could be president, owner, CEO. It doesn't matter so much, but a title, and then normally they're going to be 100%. Again, if that's not factual for a given client's file, then we need to do what's factual. I'm just telling you the norms. Scroll on down. This can be confusing, but we can leave all of this blank 99.9% of the time. This is for larger organizations that have parent companies, so there's a vertical structure of businesses. That's going to rarely be the case. So in almost all cases, all of this will be no or not applicable. They ask what your business does. We want to stick with giving them the industry code, not a description. And the code you should have, if you don't have it, we can provide it to you, but it stands for Management Consulting Services. This code here is really important because this is a large part of how risk is assigned. Some industries are higher risk, some industries aren't. Management consulting is not. That's why we use it. And then management consulting is broad enough, we could do it plus other things and not be in conflict. So management consulting is what we want to use there. All of the shelf corps that we form are a corp, a C corp. And again, all grant participants will have this information sent to them normally 7 days after enrollment. Again, trade style, think of that as DBA. We don't need to worry about that. We can skip that. Now it asks for financing. Attach a copy of the financial statement. So let's talk about finances. And we've had this discussion before, but let's go through it. When you think of finances, we need to look at what time frame that the question is asked. Are they asking for historical financials? Or are they asking for projections? Because those can be two different answers. Which with each Shelf Corp, we provide 36 months of projections. So we have that. In terms of going backwards to historical, we must use accurate information. All right, Terry has a question about our address. So we built a brand new office building at 509 South Pacific Street. So yes, Terry, if you go back and you look at older pictures, you're going to see the lot. because the lot is a prerequisite for building a building. Every building must be built on a lot, I guess, unless it floats on water. So if you look at older pictures, Terry, you will see a picture of a lot because the lot comes first and then you build the structure on top. So don't worry about that. It's a new building. Okay. So for the finances, and I know it's broken down over 2 pages, this is D&B's document, not mine. We can look to see how they define it, because what we were saying before Terry asked the question about the address is, are they asking about historical financials or are they asking about future looking? What is it they're asking? Well, actually, they give us the option to go either way. It says, what were your sales for last year? So if we had sales for last year, then that's the answer that we would provide, and it would go right here on the report. But it also gives us an option. If not in operation for over a year, what do you project it to be going forward? And we have that. It's about 1.3 million per year is what's in the base projections. That can be changed up or down based upon the grant participant's preference. But normally what's going to end up showing up here is 1.3 million. Not because we're lying, not because we're misrepresenting. We're answering the second, the second of the two scenarios. So this is a paper-based form that essentially is just a synopsis of what can be provided telephonically or online to Dun & Bradstreet that then gets populated into the Credit Insight report. So let's scroll down just so we get more white space. Let's bring back up our notes and look at where we're at. So again, let's review the steps. First, we need to get a DUNS number, best to call. Here's the number, 800-526-9018. Really nice people. They're salesmen and saleswomen, but really nice people. And so you can get the DUNS number over the phone. At the same time, we want to order Credit Insights because we know we're going to need that to be able to generate reports, because this example is off of basic. If the person just had free, we wouldn't get this level of detail, and then that would be a disadvantage. I never did pull up that full report, but the full report shows a lot of different data about payment history. Now, this isn't fully populated yet, but it would show trade lines and inquiries and so forth. And so that is what we would be able to see internally. And then that's what the lenders and issuers of credit would see. So we're going to build this out, of course. We're going to get to that in step 5. So once we have Credit Insights, then we can see our company as external parties would. We're going to populate it with those fields, which we talked about over on company operations, not too complicated. We're going to run the report, which I showed you how to do. Go to Credit Insights. Slowly it'll populate here, hopefully. And then up at the right, if you remember, it gave us, I guess we'll go back up here. There it is, create report. That's how we're going to create the report. So what we ask grant participants to do is create the report, and then they upload it into the portal that we provide them. And then we're going to review it and make sure it's good to go. And with that, then we're ready to add trade lines. We've had separate trainings on trade lines, but the goal is to add trade lines to build the strength of the business. So the credit recommendation goes up from a small amount to a large amount. We get a good D&B score. Our risk goes down. But how do we do all those things? Those are things that we do based upon applying for credit and then using that credit. But another one of the differences of business credit is that it can grow so much more quickly than personal credit. So this isn't a long, drawn out process. All right, Donovan's asking if there's a cost for Credit Insight. Who can give Donovan an answer? I need help with this. Donovan's asking in the chat, is there a cost for Credit Insight? Who can give Donovan an answer to that question? And the hint is we've covered it, and it's also on the screen. and it's also highlighted. So Donovan, what do you think? What do you think the cost is? Now, what we also covered is that there's three different levels of credit insight, Donovan. There's the free, and some people love free, but free doesn't give us what we need. There's the basic, which does just fine. And then there's the plus, which is more expensive, but we frankly don't need it for our purpose. If that's what the client wants, it's their money, it's up to them. Okay, so who has other questions regarding this process? So this is part of our technical advisory services, part of what we do with the client in phase two. So phase one is specifically getting the shelf corp to them. If they're using the ESP platform, it's getting the shelf corp to them plus the 20,000 of quick cash. And then once the shelf corp comes to them with quick cash, 20,000 quick cash in about 7 days, then we complete the application for the first tranche. We want to get them funding offers right away. And then we move into the loan packaging process, which is building up the paperwork, the documentation legally and ethically of the business so it qualifies for the type of funding that the client has been matched to. And with that, building out their Dun& Bradstreet is almost always recommended. Are there some types of funding that we wouldn't need to build out D&B? Yes, there are. There's some types of fund because we talk about the three C's: credit, business credit, credit, collateral, capacity. Not all lenders use all three C's. Some of them only look at two of the three. Some of them only look at one of the three. So do we always have to build out their Dun& Bradstreet as we've described today? No, we don't have to, but it certainly is best practice. It's recommended, it's included, and we're not charging them for this. This is part of the loan packaging process. All right, Johnny, I want to acknowledge Johnny is on our call today. He's a new reseller. He recently came aboard. He did his first workshop last night. And if I recall correctly, Johnny, did you have about 60 attendees, about 60 attendees at your workshop? Forgive me if I got that number wrong, but I know it was an outstanding success. So Johnny's doing what a lot of you are doing, is understanding if you go educate, it's not hard to find people that have a problem that you can help with, but they need to know that you have a solution and that you have knowledge. And teaching that 27 mistake curriculum, which addresses this at a more high level, is one of the best topics to go out and teach. All right, so with that, again, if you have additional questions, comments, concerns, or individualized topics, text us 903-347-8042. We can help you one-on-one. We'll be back on Monday. I believe next week is a pretty normal week. I think we'll be having morning Zooms all week. We've been real busy this week in hiring some additional attorneys that we talked about on Wednesday's training. And we had decided to go ahead and have issued offers to two of the three attorneys that we talked about on Wednesday. So Monica and Valerie were both, we've extended offers and we should hear back today. And our target start date for those two new attorneys would be Monday, November 3rd. All right, if you need anything else, let us know. Thank you for your time. Have a great day, great weekend, and we'll see you Monday morning. Bye-bye.